Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts, and today we are going back down to the land of Mexico, where we are looking at catacombs beneath a Catholic church. Ooh.
Yes, the National Institute of Anthropology and History down in Mexico has discovered or not discovered, but has begun the study of some catacombs beneath the Church of Saint Bartholomew the Apostle. I really do hate that name. It always sticks on my throat, Bartholomew.
Bartholomew.
Uh, in Hueypoxtla, Mexico. Now, this is a Catholic church in the Diocese of Hueypoxtla, and in 1934, a large catacomb complex was discovered beneath the church, containing graves belonging to both Spanish and indigenous people from the 16th to 19th centuries, which
Ooh.
is always interesting when you see both Spanish and indigenous graves in the same place.
Mixed burials? Oh, man.
Likely religious burials, just figuring this is where all the Catholics got put for a while.
Yeah. And a lot of times, especially with the Spaniards, when they first came to the New World, the people that they didn't butcher or try to convince to be allies, they brought religion to, and they would establish Catholic churches on prominent points on pre-existing religious sites and iconography. So they tried to integrate a lot of the cultures into their religious system. So seeing the mix of the two groups co-buried, it doesn't really surprise me because this is probably an early Spanish outreach site, especially given the 16th century date.
Well, I think it's 16th to 19th century because they haven't identified what period people started burying down there, and they know that there's Spanish burials in here, so it has to be, at least 16th century.
I'm assuming, given the 72 crypts that they located and the fact that they're working with the bioarchaeology lab, I'm assuming the reason they gave those dates is because they found bodies from all of those time periods represented. I wouldn't be surprised if they had already dated the bones.
The article itself is not forthcoming with how far along the investigation is. It does state that the bioarchaeology laboratory of the National School of Anthropology and History is involved, as well as cross references with the church's archives. So they are attempting to match the people in the catacombs with the people that the church indicates were around at the time.
That, and the researchers specifically set out their research goals to try and identify the age of these people, the gender, their cause of death, and then looking at grave goods as well, because some of these graves have very interesting things with them. Like, one person was buried in a coffin with their hands wrapped in dried palm leaves. Another was buried beneath a pile of stones. Infants wearing metal crowns. There's a lot of interesting iconography and burial practices that are happening. And as anthropologists, that could tell you a lot about the people that you're studying.
And one of the key things with what's going on there is I would very much like a clarification on at least on the statement that is made there, because the way it is phrased, it could be that a person was buried beneath stones and infants wearing metal crowns. Just the way it is phrased, it's like I would like for that to be a little bit clearer, because that's what came to my mind. That is not a fun image.
I'm assuming
infants. That's not fun.
I'm assuming, given their name, Ruiz Albaran, that they're probably Spanish speaking and probably.
I want to check on the translation, please.
Yeah, I don't think the translation probably made it the best, or the person editing the translation maybe didn't do the best in their grammatical checks, but
yeah, that's all. Just like It's just one of those things where it's like there's a fun image here, and it is horrifying, and I very much want it to. I very much want confirmation that it is not true.
No, when they died, they buried a ton of infants on top of them.
That's what I mean. Like, we're just using infants as construction material at this point. Yes, the types of graves that are being found in these crypts, the methods of burials being used, what people are being buried with, all of that is widely variable between the 72 different graves. There's a very mosaic-esque spread among what is being found here, which is what makes this catacombs investigation so newsworthy, is because we're not just finding one type of grave corresponding to one or two specific demographics. We're finding everybody's graves. Now, presumably, the one overarching demographic for this is that they are all Catholic to some extent, but you are really seeing the mix of cultures as, people, proselytize and the religion gets reinterpreted or reinvented alongside existing traditions.
Well, and that's where I think a lot of our colleagues would argue grave goods tend to be the best insight, because you can see really truly how much the cultures integrate, because the mixture of grave goods from the indigenous culture to the Christian burial practices, because we have the well-known Christian burial practices. I mean, those are well documented at this point, especially for this time period. So to see what differences there are, what variations, could give you a really good insight as to how well the church had integrated, how much the people truly believed in it, and there's just a whole slew of information. And the cool thing that I find too that we didn't even talk about is if they identify age, gender, and cause of death, you could find out tons more information, like how good were their diets, how well were these people eating, how long did they live, what was the average cause of death. Like, you can figure out what the positives and downfalls of the society were purely based off of the remains.
Or at the very least, what socioeconomic group is getting, buried beneath the church as opposed to elsewhere. Because I guarantee you, 72 tombs is not the net sum population of Hueypoxtla from the 16th to 19th century.
It was just one family that lasted a very long time.
I'm sorry, but Mexican Habsburgs is a myth, and I refuse to believe in it.
To be fair, they said 72 crypts, and there could be multiple burials per crypt. I mean, we don't know the total number of remains.
By 10, you're telling me 720 people was the net sum population for what? 3 centuries?
I'm sure there were more slabbed outside too, but
it's like, it's important to see who's getting buried under the church versus who is not.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
So that's why we thought this was a good article to talk about, because it kind of gave you an insight, kind of something that's maybe not earth-shattering discoveries, but that can lead to a lot of new insights and a lot of cool research. I'm actually kind of excited. I'm going to have to keep an eye out to see where this actually goes.
The other key thing to point out for this is just the fact that, like, archaeological backlog is a thing that exists. These crypts were discovered in 1934, and it is only now that we are making the rounds to investigate them. Largely probably because we now have the technology to properly investigate them. Let's be honest, 1930s was not the golden age of biological archaeology.
I actually would like to think about it like they popped the cork on it and they're like, not quite aged enough. Let's give it 100 years or so.
No. That's just wrong. We do not need to make garum out of people. And if you want to know what garum is, go look to our short segment, because I'm going to be making Justin talk about that horribly disgusting food.
Oh, on that bombshell. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.